Yeah, there we go. Are we online? We're ready to start? Okay. Welcome everyone to our August the 8th council meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. And before we go to any other proceedings, I'd like to suggest as we begin our council meeting this morning, it is appropriate that we acknowledge a tragic event that occurred this past Tuesday involving a Rocky View County municipal employee who was fatally injured and another Fortis Utility Service employee who was also sustained a non-life-threatening injury during the same event. This tragic incident has impacted the sense of safety and security felt throughout our communities and that we rightfully take for granted on a daily basis. I ask that we observe a minute of silence to remember Colin Hoff, a Rocky View County municipal employee whose life was lost while serving the Rocky View County community late Tuesday morning, August the 6th. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. We extend our sincere condolences to the family of Colin Hoff along with the Rocky View County staff and council on their significant loss. Okay, as we call this meeting to order, I think that we, Amanda Philpott has asked to be excused from the meeting today. Do we have a motion to that effect, Ellen? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. We have the minutes of the July 25th, 2024 council meeting. They have been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? And if not, a motion to approve the minutes as circulated. Adina, please. Thank you. All in favor of that motion, please indicate. That is carried. Call for post-agenda items. Are there any post-agenda items? I have one. I'm going to suggest that we add, calling it what, a letter to K Division. We'll deal with that as a post-agenda item. Any other post-agenda items? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as altered. Kelly, thank you. All in favor of that motion, please indicate. That is carried. Question period. Are there any questions or notices of motion? Seeing none, I'll suggest that we move on to bylaws. Let's take one. Good. Welcome, Maria. Good morning, and thank you for attending this morning. We'll take item number 7.1, bylaw 2076-24, land use amendment. Go ahead, Maria, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to redesignate an approximate 10-acre parcel from Agriculture General District to Agriculture Small Lot District, as shown on the attached maps. And I can have this up here. So the proposed parcel would include, I'll start again. The applicant would like to subdivide the developed area and the pasture land from the irrigated farmland. So currently this is all one parcel, zoned agriculture, and they would like to subdivide out this yellow portion. The subdivision authority bylaw states that the subdivision authority may only approve one subdivision on an unsubdivided quarter section within the Ag General District. As this is not the first subdivision out of the quarter section, a land use redesignation is required. The subdivision authority bylaw also states that parcels that are zoned Ag small lot are not permitted. So if council would approve this, and give it third reading, then this parcel would have the ability to be subdivided out, and additional subdivisions would not be allowed without the benefit of another land use amendment. The proposed parcel would include 2 houses, accessory buildings, and additional pasture, and all irrigated farmland would remain intact on the other parcel. It is recommended that first reading be given to bylaw 2076-24.
Okay, anyone have questions? I have one. Does that facilitate additional subdivisions off of this potentially subdivided lot and redesignated lot? Would it, you understand what I'm asking, if is there potential for additional subdivision if we approve this?
So this current application would allow for this parcel to be subdivided out as an agriculture small lot. If this were to be subdivided further, or if additional subdivisions would be requested for this parcel, another land use amendment would have to be applied for. So it would have to go through the land use amendment stage and then the subdivision stage again.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Adina, please.
So how much land is remaining then in the irrigated land? How big is that area?
It would be approximately 50 acres. And that I should have had in here, and I don't have off the top of my head, unfortunately, but I believe the entire parcel is 69 acres, so it would be, about 50 to 60 acres in the irrigated portion. I could double check that for you.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, please.
And no road or access construction is required, Maria, for either parcel?
There is existing access to both parcels off of Township Road 200.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, this is request for first reading, so there will be further process with regard to the procedure here following this if we provide first reading. So Lynette, please.
I'm ready to make the motion for first reading.
I'll accept that. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. I think that concludes our bylaws, right? Yeah, thank you. Let's move to item 8.1, a funding request from the Brooks Community Football, and I welcome Lane Johnson is going to take this part, and we welcome Mark Freeman coming to present on behalf of the football group as well, and I think we should start with some introductions. Ellen, why don't you begin, please?
Good morning, Ellen Unra, and I represent the area around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, Greg Screever, Lake New Resort and Castles.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Chrisman, and I'm from the west side of the county, Div 6.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Arno Dirksen from GEM Area Division 9.
Welcome, Matt Fensky, CAO.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Hello, Adina Scandrup, Division 2, the area around the hamlet of Tilly.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dan Short from Division 1, Rolling Hills. Good to see you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kopp, Division 3, the Patricia Millicent area.
Susan Yokoyama, IT Administrative Assistant and Moderator.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Hi, Mark. Sandra from the Bulletin.
And I'm Lane Johnson, Director of Corporate Services.
Right.
So, good morning, Council. We have a request that has come in from the Brooks Community Football Association. They're kind of in an unusual situation, the result of growth and development that's taking place within the city of Brooks, and it's left them without a home field to play from for the next little while. And the request that is before council is to offset costs that are going to be incurred to attend their home games that will need to be played in either Tabor or Medicine Hat. Now, this is certainly outside the scope of normal recreation funding that council deals with. But given the situation that they're in, we thought we would bring this forward and have council consider whether or not there's an opportunity for some funding to be provided. Mark would certainly be in a position to provide some additional details and background information for council consideration.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else to add, Mark? Or
I do. I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Mark Freeman. I'm the president of Brooks Community Football. I'm the head coach of the Roadrunners, and I'm a teacher at the junior high. As Lane said, we are in a very unique situation. Due to the new junior high being built on our football field, we will not have a football field in Brooks or the county of Newell for, they say, at least 4 to 5 years. The football field behind the Brooks Competency High is not actually big enough. It's not a standard field. That, and it does not have lights. And you cannot put lights there due to the hospital. That being said, we are going to have to travel, like my team, the Roadrunners, will have to travel to Medicine Hat probably 8 times this next season. To put that into perspective, I have the Pee Wee team. They'll also have to travel. They traveled 4 times to Medicine Hat last year, and it cost them $2,400. I'm going to have to go at probably 8 times, so double that. That's plus the Pee Wee still going, plus the Composite High School is going to have to travel to Tabor for all their home games. Now, I don't have their numbers in front of me, but I assure you it's not cheap. And nothing we do is cheap. To add on to that point, some costs that we just incurred that we're not like most other sports. Especially, we're not actually a school team, the Roadrunners, or the Composite. We're a community-based team that's kind of sitting out in a school, so we don't get any school funds. We get most of our money from fundraising or from player fees, but due to our unique demographic, we usually have more kids that can't pay than more kids that can pay. Our insurance costs have gone up 5 times in the last 6 years. It used to be $10 a kid. As of right now, it's $50 a kid. I have 43 kids on my team, plus 6 coaches, which gets at about $2,700 worth of just insurance, okay, plus the team costs you pay. So we are asking just for a little bit of help for the next couple of years. The unique thing about football in Brooks is that because we're not attached to any school, we take everyone from the county. I had 2 kids from Bassano on my team last year. I usually have kids out of Dutchess. I've had kids out of Tilly, many kids out of Tilly. We take everyone who wants to play football. The high school level is slightly more complicated due to ASAA, but I can tell you the Pee Wees do the exact same thing. Like, we are a community-based team here to help, or here to let anyone play football. So if anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Dan, please.
All the expenses related to travel, is it just the busing and the bus driver cost, or is there anything else that I'm missing there? What are the costs for traveling?
Well, the travel costs are the bus driver. The Grasslands, I think it's 60 cents a kilometer puts on there, plus you have to rent the actual bus. Then on top of that, I mean, there's still, you're splitting the field fees. Like, you never had field fees before because we'd have our home field, like we could play here. So now we have to do that, and the Methanex where Medicine Hat plays, you have to pay for security to come to the games. That's something that we never had to do in Brooks. There's just extra costs kind of everywhere.
Kelly, go ahead. Thanks, Mark.
My question is, what about the field in Bassano?
The field in Bassano, as far as I know, doesn't have uprights on it. I'm not entirely sure if it has lights. I mean, I have gone to the field in Bassano coaching basketball. Like, that's the only real times I've gone to the school out there. That being said, you'd have to take the trailer and our C cans that are currently at the junior high, move them out to Bassano and trench power into them. And currently the plan is to move those to the composite high just for a practice field. Obviously, when we play football, we need a lot of equipment, a lot. And then another huge issue for going to Bassano would be, how do we get our Brooks kids out to Bassano to even practice or play? And we need to have busing fees to get them from the junior high or from Brooks out to Bassano. And most of my kids, the overwhelming amount of my kids, when it comes to practices, they walk or they bike. They don't have the parental support that could get them a ride out there. So again, that's just another cost. Yep.
Go ahead.
So then a follow-up question has to be asked, and it's a hard one. I'll brace you. Where are the parents?
That's a fantastic question. I could tell you that as a teacher and as a coach for the last 7 or 8 years, parental support is just not there. I have taken basketball teams to zone championships with one parent come with. I have taken football teams to gold medal games and had 43, 45 kids in the team and 5 parents come. And most of the time their parents are, with our demographic, on my team, a lot of our parents are working double shifts at the plant, right? They're just not involved in the way that we might be used to.
Thank you. Greg.
Good morning. The kids that play on the team, are they also coming from the Catholic School Division and the Eco School Division? Do you know?
I've never had anyone from the French School Division as of right now, but we've had kids from the Catholic Division for sure. They won't put in money. I mean, that's the reason their football team folded itself, is that they didn't have any money, so they couldn't run a football program.
Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, and my follow-up question is, did you approach them this time for support? And also both school divisions, Grasslands and the Catholic School Division, what is their, when you approach them, what is their answer to this problem?
I know that Grasslands School, one of my coaches, who's also my principal, is in discussions with Grasslands School Division, which is Jared Hofer. And it just pretty much boils down to, we're not a school team. Right? We don't get school funds. We're not like the Roadrunner volleyball team or the Roadrunner basketball team. We're a community team that's kind of housed out of a school. So Grasslands, as far as I know, isn't going to put any money towards it. One of the major problems with not being this actual school-based team is, like, let's say the volleyball team runs over budget, there's school-generated funds for that volleyball team. There's not for us, right? So Grasslands, as far as I know, has not done anything yet. I know that they've approached the Catholic school. I haven't heard anything out of that yet.
So, is there going to be another football field in Brooks?
The plan right now...
Because by implication, what we're discussing here would suggest there might never be one, unless there's a plan to...
The plan, the tentative plan right now is to build a new football field where the junior high currently sits. So what we're waiting for at the football level is for them to build the new junior high in the middle of our football field, demolish the current junior high, and do the landscaping for a new field, which, I mean, I'm being optimistic when I say 4 or 5 years.
And who's going to do that?
Who's going to create it? It's part of the government plans to build a new school. They're adding the field in a part of it, and they're in current discussions right now whether that football field be grass or if...
So will it then become part of the school program, or?
Well, it won't, because it's just owned by the district. So like right now, the district owns our football field itself, but not the program. right? Like that's their land and they're willing to have a football field built on this land, but.
Okay, thanks. Dina, please.
So I'm just curious, you say grasslands, your community program, so grasslands doesn't contribute to it. What percentage of your players would you say come from grassland schools?
I couldn't speak to the other teams, obviously, like the Pee Wee or the high school program, but I could say that out of ours, it really depends on the year, right? Like I've had a whole lot of kids come from Duchess one year. I've had a whole lot of kids come out of Telly for another year. Our team last year, I would say out of the 35, probably 6 kids were county kids. But then a lot of them end up, because they play football, they come to the junior high the following year.
Okay, but even though they come from the county, they're still going to a grassland school, right? Like Tilly is a grassland school, Duchess is a grassland school, right?
So is this a selected team, or is anybody who shows up plays?
We don't cut kids.
Sorry?
We do not cut kids. We're an inclusive program. If you want to play football, we'll teach you how to play football.
Okay. Go ahead.
So my dilemma here is who is supporting the county residents getting to your program historically up until now? Because we're here asking for funding to get your team out of town to play your games. Who's funding historically the students to come into town to play?
What do you mean? Like who's bringing them physically to there, or?
Who's funding it?
Like who's paying for them to come to our games? Well, I mean, they'd have to pay to come to our games just like kids from the lake, right? Like if you live at the lake and you play football, you got to somehow get to practice or get to a game.
I'm just shedding a light on the
No,
situation.
I understand.
It's a situation that we deal with all the time. It's an imbalance in the system. You know, the majority of the people are in the city and they expect the services to be in the city. So we fund our kids to come to the city for events and for socialization and all kinds of recreation.
For sure. I could say that like I personally have
So
driven a lot of kids, or coaches will go get them, but there's no, I don't have a fantastic answer for
No, thank you.
Ellen and then Greg.
Has the city of Brooks been approached for funding at all?
Yes. And they're willing to help fund parts of the new field as far as I know. A lot of that, like the whole building thing, is I'm not a part of. I couldn't speak to a ton of it. I just know tentative plans, but we did ask them for a grant this year to help move, just for the cost of moving our sea cans, and we were denied.
Greg, and then Lynette, and then Holly.
Yeah, mine was on the same lines as Ellen. Has the city of Brooks been approached? And it was an outright decline from the city of Brooks? Okay.
Okay. Holly, please.
2 questions. One is, I see you have a recreation grant for $3,500, and I'm wondering where that grant comes from, who funds that grant. And secondly, so what would your total cost of busing be on a regular year? Because I know we have $7,500 per team, but what's the usual cost? What's the cost coming up?
A regular year, give or take. So if I'm just going to look at this Pee Wee bus trip, which is 4 trips. So we play every team on a regular year. I play 1 game here, then we play the same team there. So everyone gets a home game. So you'd have 6 games plus playoffs, if you make playoffs, and depending where you go. So I would say a regular cost would probably be $2,500 to $3,000, depending on how far you go in the playoffs per team. That's just for my team. I don't know about, obviously, the high school as they travel significantly farther for their away games than we do. Like they'll go to Drumheller or Lethbridge. Like we're in the Rangeland League where we just go to Medicine Hat.
Thank you. Go follow up, Holly, go ahead.
So you're saying the 7,500 cost is a new cost, roughly?
It would just, any of our costs for our trips would pretty much double, right? That's the thing. So if we usually play 4 games, now we're going to have to play 8 games at Medicine Hat. So our costs obviously go up. Probably double, if not more, depending on how well we do. I can say that for the last 2 years, our Roadrunner team has gone to the final both times. So we've played extra games that other teams haven't.
Okay, Greg.
So total, between all the teams, this is more than just, this is for community football, right?
Yes.
So how many members or how many kids would be involved in community football?
40, 70. In the Adams and the Peewees, I would say on a regular year, 120, 130.
And what is the parents' reaction to a roughly $75 increase per kid? What would their reaction be for the traveling cost?
Not great. I mean, I can only speak for my team when I say that we keep our costs low because we know that the majority of our kids who are playing can't afford a higher cost, right? Like, we only charge $175 for a grade 9 kid, which is insanely low, on the hopes that they can pay it.
And I know football is a very expensive sport to play for kids, just like hockey is, and just like a number of the other volleyball's not near as high because you don't have the equipment and things like that. The parents, are they, for the most part, are they willing to fundraise for this, or what kind of fundraising has been done?
Our main fundraiser for Brooks Community Football is our gold cards, where it's $20 a card and you get different deals at places around Brooks. That has been the bulk of our fundraiser for a very long time. So that's where we get the majority of our money. Like, on an average year, that'll get each team between $3,000 and $4,000. And on an average year, it costs about $8,000 to run a team. It is not cheap. I mean, like you said, with equipment, like, it's $450 for one helmet, and helmets only last 10 years.
Greg?
I'm just wondering if there's other organizations that have been approached, like the Rotary Club, the Elks, a number of different organizations. Have they been approached for help with this? Because I know that their mandate is to any money that they raise through their different fundraising goes to the community. Have you made any type of presentations to them?
I know the Rotary Club has been approached in the past. I know that we've sent out a lot of sponsorship letters during this summer, and we're just waiting for a lot of replies.
So
fingers crossed for anyone who's willing to hear us out, kind of thing.
So your target is $7,500?
Honestly, like, on our funding request, we have 25 to 5. Like, $7,500 is a lot of money, right? If we can get 25 to 5, and we can get more than one sponsor, it just helps the program as a whole, right? Like, we're definitely not asking for $7,500. That is a lot.
No, but that's how much you're trying to raise with this effort.
That's how much we're trying to get this, yeah, pretty much.
I guess, yeah, I'd have to say that this is out of our wheelhouse. Fairly significantly, and I mean, you're raising some points that are interesting, but I'm wondering if there's been full creativity put to potential sources of, that's a lot of money, but it's not, in the context of what the driver of this situation is, it might not be as much as it seems. I'm wondering if there's been a broad reach out to
well, as I said, we have sent out a lot of sponsorship letters. We're just waiting to hear replies. I know that Candy Stein, our secretary, sent and organized this package for you guys, and You're one of the first ones to get back to us, and I do very much appreciate you hearing us out.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Lynette, please.
Did Holly's question get answered where you get your $3,500 from?
The $3,500 grant was from the city 2 years ago to go towards helmets for all the teams. It's been spent to the best of my knowledge because, like I said, $450 a helmet, $3,500 doesn't go very far.
Kelly and then Holly.
And just for clarity, that 3,500, half of it is the county and half is the city.
Oh, okay.
Recreation is 50-50, so just for clarity.
Well, thank you. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
Just curious, so we're talking 4 or 5 years, you had said, and you think until you have a field in Brooks. So you're after an ongoing funding for the next 4 or 5 years to find all this money? Is that what you're saying?
We will. I mean, we just did a casino in June here for Brooks Community Football, but you won't see that money for at least another year kind of thing. So we're trying to get as much money as we can to last the 5 years, because I'm sure by year 4, you'll get real tired of me doing the same speech.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? I appreciate the conundrum that you're in and also the good work that you do to provide football as an option for young people in our area. That's important. I acknowledge that, and I hear good things. Will admit that I personally haven't watched much football just because of the demographic I'm in, I suppose, and the distance I am from town. But I wanted you to know that we appreciate the work that you do, and we will consider this
Thank you.
request. And I'm not sure exactly. I mean, council will have to discuss it and decide what the right approach will be. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Are there any other questions that council has, or are you someone prepared to take a particular action on this at this point? I have to say that I'm interested in the success of the rest of your campaign to raise some funds. That would make a difference. You know, I'd be interested in how that goes, because it seems like you have a fairly compelling case for the community from my perspective. Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you. I will let you know if we hear anything from anyone else. Yeah. I do very much appreciate you guys having me and considering our proposal.
Yeah.
So.
Anything else? Or Dan, please.
I'll just make a motion to accept this as information, and then invite for a follow-up after you've heard back from all your sponsors, and when you get into the season, if you're running low, not going to be able to finish the season kind of a thing, to come back and talk to us then.
For sure.
You made a motion? Okay, any further questions or comments? Or all in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thanks for coming in today, Mark. Appreciate the information, and we will hear from you again.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks. Okay, we are up to where? Yeah. Let's move to 9.1, road closure. Approval to proceed, Willow Street, the Hamlet of Patricia. Welcome, Maria. Thank you.
We can discuss it with the board. Grasslands when we get this one. Like, come on. Yeah. And then if there's any funding, it should be 50-50 or whatever. Yeah. Most justice.
Go ahead. Yep. Welcome, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The purpose of this application is to close portions of Willow Street and Willow Crescent in the hamlet of Patricia. The existing built road is not located within the existing road allowance. So in order to rectify this, the existing road allowance should be closed and a new road allowance be created to encompass the existing built road. There are county-owned properties that are adjacent, that an adjacent landowner is interested in purchasing to consolidate with their lands. As surveying needs to be completed for this sale, it also offers the opportunity to rectify the road at the same time. So the EID has been approached because they own the lands that the road encroaches on, and they are in favor of and have agreed to sell portions of the land for the new road plan. It is recommended that council grant the approval to proceed and that we move the application to be advertised for public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Holly, you've got a question?
Yeah, so who's upset the road's in the wrong place? Like, how did this come to us?
I don't think anyone is upset, but so the county owns this dugout property, and these two properties right here. So the plan is that the owners of this property here will purchase these properties, and because we have surveying happening, this portion here needs to be subdivided so that this could create all one parcel. Because the surveyors will be out there doing that, it does provide an opportunity to also do this road. And while the surveyors are out there, it is more cost effective than to leave this until someone is upset about where the current road is.
Okay, thank you. Holly, follow up?
Yeah, so if we're going to move a road, that's fairly costly, right? I'm just looking at costs because I thought our priority in Patricia was the septic, which is having lots of problems. I'm just wondering, does this make sense in looking at what Patricia needs in the long run?
Go ahead, Maria, please.
So the actual road will not move, only the road allowance boundary. So what's in red right now is the current road allowance, and the built road is off of the road allowance. So this road allowance will just move so that it encompasses where the road actually is. So the cost won't be for building the road. The additional cost will just be from purchasing a portion of the land from the EID to rectify where that road is currently built, so that the road allowance just shifts over, and then we can sell that additional land to the owners of this property.
Okay, thank you. Holly, follow up.
So if we're going to buy land from the EID and then sell land and pay all the legal costs for the EID, are we going to be ahead or behind?
I guess the question, will there be a net cost to the county is what you're asking? Yeah. What's your prediction on that? I realize that some of it might be speculative, but.
I would say that the county would be in a position right now to rectify this, and it would be more cost effective than waiting and in the future it becoming a problem and then having to get surveyors out and doing all of that. So now we're in a position to get rid of some liability, some lands that are not necessary for the county. Also rectify this road so there will not be issues in the future that could be costly.
Okay, thank you for that. Kelly, please.
Yeah, this has been talked about for a number of years, I think. In the greater scheme of things, I think it all started around 5 years ago. Anyway, I'd like to make a motion to accept option number 1 to proceed with the road closure.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Are there any other questions or comments? Greg, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think it is important at the time, whenever there's land being bought and sold and corrected. These lines need to be corrected. So I am in favor of this. So yeah, for sure. I think it's important to do this while the surveyors are out there to minimize the costs.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
Just for clarification, does the approach from that one road not have to be moved because it's not in the designated red area there?
Go ahead, Maria, please.
This approach here? Down here? Right, so this actually, we will be closing this portion, but this will remain part of the new road because there's land here that requires access. So we're going to close this entire thing and then this will be resurveyed in to, and so this approach will stay within the road allowance. The new road allowance once that happens.
So what we're seeing there in the red is that's going to be closed, but it's going to be the new road is just going to have a different configuration than what we're seeing there, okay? Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Call the question. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Maria. Let's move on to item number 9.2, letter of support for the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association Community Partnership Grant application. Matt, please.
Yeah, I won't spend too much time on this one. Another request from SAWA to keep leaning in and doing some additional work here. So they're looking for letters of support from members applying for a $200,000 grant to work towards the development of a regional member waste agreement. Councillor Johnson may have more information around context on this, but to keep this train running, they need dollars, and this is where they're looking for them.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Neil, have you got some comments?
No, Matt pretty well summed it all up. They need money to keep operating. They're just about out.
Okay.
So need the letter of support.
Thank you. Any further? Holly, go ahead.
Just a question for you, Neil. I'm looking at this. It's 715 hours of project management time and then 52,000 for a consultant, and it's still going to take a year. Do you think those timelines and amounts are feasible? I'm just wondering in terms of when they submit the grant, looking for something that's going to be palatable to the government. Do you think that all falls in line?
I would hope it does, but my experience with government, I would not want to put my neck on the block and answer you 100%. Anything can happen with this. It's been a long, hard process, but I have some decent enough news later on in my report, so yeah, that's it.
Okay, any other questions? Someone prepared to go, Lynette, please.
I'll make the motion to provide a letter of support to SAWA.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please indicate. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Pardon me? Yeah, Cole, you're here early. It's a couple of minutes to 11:15, and if welcome. If you're willing to give your report at this point, thanks for coming this morning.
Thank you very much, Freeman Council. I appreciate the opportunity to give you my report. It's been a few since I've been in here. Busy lives, I guess. And to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot to report, so I didn't want to take up valuable time for Council. But we do have a few things to go over today. I'll start off with Lake Newell Resort lift station. One of the pumps kind of failed on us and it needed to be repaired. So we have sent it off to the company that we usually deal with in these matters, and they've dealt with Lake Newell Resort pumps before. So they're currently rebuilding it at a cost of about $16,000. unfortunately, the timeline on parts for them is quite lengthy, so we're looking at about a 14 to 16 week window for that pump to be repaired. In the meantime, there is one pump that is functioning still at that lift station, but the redundancy is gone for that time period. And there again, we've dealt with that situation before in the past, but it definitely is a risk and we're aware of it. And I've brought it up with county staff, and we're looking at maybe other ways that we can kind of alleviate that risk moving forward when things like this happen, because they do wear out, they do need repairing. And this is the second time over the last probably 6-7 years where we send it away, and due to the manufacturer of that, it seems like their parts are not readily available. So just be mindful that we are looking at other options moving forward. The annual maintenance on the Lake Newell Resort sewer force main has been done. There are roughly about 10 air release valves along that line that goes from Lake Newell Resort to the old lagoon system at the city of Brooks. So annual maintenance on that is going down into the manholes, hydrovacuuming them out, and then doing the maintenance on the air release valves. That was all completed and everything looked good, so that was finished for the year. The Tilly Lagoon desludging project had a minor setback. Lambourne Environmental was looking to procure some lands to apply the sludge on after the fact. They said that they would require about 6, I believe, is it quarters, Mark?
He's sidetracked.
Is it 6 quarters or 6 sections that they needed? I think it'd be quarters. That's 6 sections is a lot of land. But anyways, they were only able to procure 1. And so they're short. So they came up with an alternate proposal of basically putting them in large bladders and keeping them on site for an extended period of time while they dewater. And after a number of years, you transport it and dispose of that in the landfill. A number of years down the road, up to 10. The longer you wait, the drier it is, the lighter it is, and less money for transport. And so that's kind of, we're looking at that. Mark and his staff have had some questions that we're kind of bouncing back to Lambourne to look at that proposal, but unfortunately their CAO won't be back in the country until the 12th of August. So we're kind of looking at doing a pivot and doing something a little different. Unless we can kind of find some land in the meantime, maybe ask nicely the EID or others, but there are some local area landowners that said that they would do it, but at a cost, and I don't think we're looking at that as a viable alternative. So that's where that project sits. Phase 3 and 4 of the County of Newell water project is progressing nicely. So Excalibur and the Gem area still. They had a little minor setback where they installed a T and it was leaking a little bit and had to deal with that. So our staff went out there and kind of supervised that. It was no big deal, but they got it finished up and they're continuing on that part. Syncor is in the Patricia and Scandia areas for phase 4, currently in the Patricia area. So everything's progressing with that.
On schedule?
I don't know about it's on schedule, but they're progressing. They're not at a standstill or anything like that. So.
Thanks. Any questions?
Got a couple more things.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
One more thing. I just wanted to give you an update on the LNR lift station revitalization project. As you recall, it's a fairly significant project and that we've taken on, kind of broken up into 2 or 3 parts. The electrical, the mechanical, and then the immediate safety upgrades that are required there. So as far as the electrical goes, we've got 3 quotes in hand. We've got 1 more incoming, and then we hope to kind of award that, the electrical portion of it soon. Mechanical quotes are proving to be a little more difficult. We've got 1 local company, TCB, that's going to give us a mechanical quote to do the stainless steel piping and valving inside the lift station. Expect that fairly soon. And then we're going to reach out to another local company, probably Dapa Joe. We are waiting for BYZ construction out of Medicine Hat. They did it 20-some years ago, the mechanical work on that project. So we're hoping that they would be willing to do that this time, but they're kind of being a little elusive on giving us a price to date, but we're going to keep on them and get the required 3 quotes for that portion of the project. And then TCB is going to go ahead and do the safety repairs on the ladder and the hatches on there. So that should be done in the next month or so. That is all I have for now.
Thanks.
So if anybody would like to ask
Any
any questions.
Kelly, go ahead.
I do have questions. I wasn't going to ask you, Cole, but since you brought up the water project, I'll spin it out there, and if you can answer, by all means, just let me know. I've had questions about open holes, open spaces that are extensively open. Can you tell me any, and this is phase 2 of the project, so we've been through this before, and so this is new that these holes are left open. They are being taped off with orange tape or pink tape or something, but they're extensive. It's over a month now that this one hole that I'm talking about. I've heard of holes in the Emoto Acres also that are open. So I'm wondering what the reason might be for that happening.
So it would be pure speculation on my part.
Mark might have the answer then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it was in the report, so I opened up the conversation.
Yeah, no, some of this is crossover between NRSC and county, right?
Yeah.
County's administering the project, so it's not really NRSC until people are being connected and they're going in and activating services for people with their flow emitters. Some of those pilot holes and stuff, they might be just be the pipe in the ground where they still have to make the fusible link between the 2 pipes to make the connection and make it happen. Or it could be open for services or whatever. I don't have the specifics on hand, but Jeff would be able to answer anything related to the project.
Okay. And can you answer the question, are the projects on time, on schedule, on track?
Jeff and the engineers are busy managing one of the contractors that is new to our region, and they're reassuring us that they will be on time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Let's talk sludge. So this sludge, does it break down like the water comes out? Is it just built on their land because it's like what? Tell me about sludge.
Okay, sludge. So you get solid build up on the bottom of these lagoons over time because the solids just settle out over time when they're in suspension in water. So as they get fuller, we were noticing that it was harder and harder. We're getting the discharge line where we let go of the water every year into the EID canal system and eventually makes it back to the Red Deer River. It was getting plugged off with solids. So we kind of knew that there was probably a solids problem, and that's why we had them come do that survey with sonar, stuff like that. Yes, there was too much in there. It needed to be cleaned out. So once they kind of go to deal with that sludge, it has to be dewatered because it can't be, so they can use a different couple methods to dewater it. And then once you kind of get more of a kind of like a mud type consistency to it, you can apply it to lands. But the problem is because of where we live and because of the amount of cattle in the area and what farmers, ranchers use for fertilizer and stuff like that, there's too much nitrogen already on some of the lands. So it makes it so that it's not usable because you can't get too high of a nitrogen content on certain lands. So that's what they were running into, the suitable parcels that they could use and would do it for free. We can't find enough land. So that's kind of where we're at. So then part of it is you can put it in these large bladders that are 100 feet long, 20, 30 feet kind of wide. And they would end up being about 8 feet tall kind of thing. And you just fill it with sludge. But they're a membrane type so that it'll let water out while containing the solids. So if they sit there for a number of years, it'll just get drier and drier and drier. And then it'll be way less, so your transport costs will go way down over time. And you're obviously paying tonnage when you get to the landfill, so the lighter, the less material there is, the cheaper it'd be to dispose of it that way. So that's kind of why they come up with this proposal. So you'd be able to spread out the costs over a longer period of time, obviously, but it's going to require more money because you're going to have to transport it and pay fees for the landfill.
Okay, thanks, Cole. Lynette, please.
Interesting learning about sludge. So if some landowners would be willing to do it, but for a price, are we really better off putting it in these big bags, or would it be better off to just pay the landowners to do what we need?
I currently don't know the exact price that the landowners, private landowners would want. That'll be a question for Lambourne when their CEO gets back from Paris.
Which is also your mode of operation. Basically, you'll be getting answers to those questions for your own board. Basically.
Yes,
that's what
county staff got quite a list of particulars that they want to know about this proposal.
Yeah.
And the proposal itself from Lambourne was quite detailed, so we just kind of want to get a few more details to kind of make sure we know exactly what Plan B is going to look like. And once that's done, then we can formulate a plan and which way we're going to go.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Matt and then Holly, please. Go ahead, Holly.
Just a question about the pump at Lake Newell Resort. I know certainly pumps do wear out. It's more of a general question. Are we seeing issues with pumps wearing out sooner because of inappropriate things being flushed down as we saw in Scandinavia years ago, or is it just wear and tear?
This is just wear and tear. We don't, because we do it twice a year where we actually go and clean the insides of these and suck them down and give inspections and stuff like that every fall and spring. And we haven't really seen that in Lake Newell Resort. It's never been an issue. It's just that they wear out over time. And the pumps are kind of made to kind of deal with some of that. They've kind of, just the way the impellers are made, some of them have grinders built into them and stuff like that. But it seems like over the years, Scandi and Tilly were the two problematic ones with things that are being flushed that shouldn't really be in there.
Is it better in those communities now?
Yes, we haven't noted anything out of the ordinary for quite a while.
Okay, thanks. Kelly and then Matt. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So my question while you were giving your report was, if parts are $16,000, what's the cost of a pump?
Double. It's roughly around $30,000.
And what's the age of the present pump that you're considering fixing?
Once you kind of refurbish it, it's as good as new. So it's just the time difference. It's 8 weeks out for a brand new one, and it's 16 weeks-ish for parts to refurbish one.
Great.
And we've been through this exact same scenario, I want to say about 5 years ago. At that time, they didn't give us really a hard timeline as they did this time, so we were waiting and waiting, constantly kind of asking them how long was this going to take. But now we know a lot of the other lift stations throughout the county are of a certain brand where they are more interchangeable. Lake Newell Resort is unique in that they have just this one brand called Myers, and that's the pump, so that we can't just go take a pump from somewhere else and switch it out as easily. That's not to say that we can't change the kind of piping system there to accommodate a different pump in case of emergency. It's going to take some
I don't mean to get into your business, just asking. Thank you.
Thanks, Cole.
The replacement pump was my question, so I'm good.
Matt, you comment or question?
Well, that's kind of where my head goes. So we look at what is currently happening in Calgary, and folks don't like going very long with water restrictions. I can imagine it's even a shorter time frame when you're trying to flush your toilet. Should we be looking at a different design for the Lake Newell Resort lift station pumps where they are interchangeable with, every other lift station? And should we sit on an extra standby pump if we're waiting 8 weeks for, let's imagine the world where the one pump that's currently operating at Lake Newell Resort fails, then what? We're waiting 8 weeks for the new, or, can you walk us through that for a little bit of insight, Cole?
That's exactly why I posed that question to county staff when I kind of came up when we sent it away and they gave us the options. So yeah, I bounced that back. You do the typical risk analysis matrix on it, is the probability versus the level of catastrophic failure would it be to the counties, that Hamlet in particular, if both of them failed at the same time. So yes, it's lower probability, but it would definitely be an issue if it happened. So that's why I thought it might be good to purchase a new one to have sit. And we have room to store that. That's kind of why I posed the question to county staff.
And
I think it's a good idea.
Where are we at on that? Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think that's exactly where we're at right now. I mean, I, as an administrator, would feel far more comfortable knowing that NRSC and our staff don't have to wait 8 weeks, and you don't have to deal with the fallout for 8 weeks if we can, spend $40,000 today, and we're still going to be waiting 8 weeks from today, but we are at least addressing that risk. And I guess the question would be, understanding that the pumps at Lake Newell Resort are different than the other lift stations, do we actually need two, or do we do the extra work at Lake Newell Resort on the piping and getting the pumps in line with all the other lift stations?
That is a very good question as well. So if we're doing the mechanical work anyway and then doing the piping change anyway, do you make it so that they fit all the other types of pumps that are currently in the county, and then make them interchangeable throughout every facility, so that worst case scenario, you could temporarily take one from a different Hamlet, install it in there until you can, there's more options that way, and it might be a larger cost initially, but it covers you and it makes it readily interchangeable throughout all your Hamlets.
Go ahead. Do you another comment, Matt?
Well, I'm just thinking time's of the essence, and I would recommend that council moves approving additional expenditure for up to $40,000 for the purchase of a standby lift station pump. And we can, between Mark's staff and Cole, figure out the details on what the redesign, we're already in there going to be doing work, getting that aligned with the other lift station pumps so we can be efficient with the standby. But I don't think anybody has an interest in when you have to send one away for a rebuild and you're relying on the one. I like to be optimistic, but I also like to be in a position where we're prepared. And I think Calgary has provided great lessons for you got to be on top of your asset management. There's no patience and no excuse for not being. So if council would entertain that motion to approve additional spending, I think that would be.
I'm certainly interested in that too. We need to do that. That's not a management part of the ongoing management. Where is that at? Because I agree with you. Our assets need to be current and ready to make sure that we don't interrupt services unnecessarily. So.
Yeah, we would need the motion. We don't have anything in budget to currently cover that additional expenditure.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Holly?
I'd like to make a motion that we purchase a standby pump for the lift stations.
Is that the essence of the motion, or is it to provide funding for the best alternative to go forward to reduce risk?
Yeah, I think if the motion was council approves additional expenditure of $40,000 from the infrastructure fund to address redundancy of pumps for the lift stations, that gives us enough leash to get to the best solution there.
That's good. That's what you said, right, Holly?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
Yeah, good. Okay, any further comments or questions? Greg, you were on the same vein? Yep, good. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.
That's excellent. I'll touch base with Mark and Jeff, and we'll get something underway immediately.
Okay, that's good. Anything else that covers your report?
That's all I have for today.
Thanks, Cole. Appreciate you coming in today. I'm going to suggest we take 5 minutes. We have a scheduled 11 o'clock appointment, but we'll take it at 10 after. Is that reasonable, Susan? Thank you. Alberta Conservation Association. Okay, we're at item number 8.2, a funding request for the Bow City East Pond fish stocking. And we'll welcome Diana Rung via Teams from the Alberta Conservation Association. Sorry. Oh, okay, so there's not, okay. Right, can you hear us, Diana?
Yes, good morning, I can.
Good morning. Todd, are you going to give us some background to the next item, but we'll also introduce ourselves. Can you see us, Diana, or you're just...
I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, we'll just introduce ourselves quickly. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm Neil Johnson from Division 10.
Ellen Unra, Division 7, Rosemary area.
Hi, Greg Screever. I'm Division 5, Lake Newell Resort and Castles.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Chrisman from the west side of the county.
Good morning and welcome. Arno Dirksen, I'm the Reeve, and also the representative for Division 9 in the GEM area.
Good morning, Matt Fensky, CAO.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Hello, Adina Scandrup, Division 2, the area around the hamlet of Tilly.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dan Short from Division 1 Rolling Hills. There it is.
Hi, Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area.
Hello, Susan Yokoyama, IT Administrative Assistant and Moderator.
Hello, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Sandra Stanway, Media at Brooks Bulletin.
Mark Harwick, Director of Municipal Services.
Okay, thank you. And we have Todd Green here who will provide us some background for this item. And welcome to our meeting, Diana, as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Todd, please.
Yeah, thank you. Diana did the heavy lifting. She had sent a lot of background information that was all attached in the agenda, so there's not a whole bunch to go through here. But Diana works for Alberta Conservation Association, and they're seeking some funding partners to help fund the stocking of the Bow City East Pond with rainbow trout. We do have many great partnerships with ACA, be it at the Aqueduct Trout Pond or the Patuque property, the Spruill property. We have never done really anything out at not in my time, at the Bow City East Ponds. And I don't believe we've ever partnered on a fish stocking program. So I'm looking forward to hear what Diana has to say, and maybe she can talk a little bit about their other municipal partners and what they do with them in these regards.
Good morning. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much to Council for this invitation. I was wondering if you have my presentation handy. If you could show it, or I could share. I had actually arranged that you would show it, and I would just ask for the slide to be changed. Okay, we have it up, I believe, if you give the direction for the slide changes. Okay. Sure. Let's just... Okay, so we're on slide 1 right now. And so yes, thank you very much for inviting me today. What I want to do is to provide a very brief presentation to back up our grant request that I had submitted earlier this year. Alberta Conservation Association, also known as ACA, is a nonprofit organization. Some of you may be familiar with some of the work that we do. Our goals are to conserve and protect fish and wildlife populations and their habitats. And this is done through many of the projects that we implement throughout the whole province. As a nonprofit organization, we are governed by a board of directors with representation from various member groups that you might be familiar with, like Alberta Fish and Game Association, Nature Alberta, Pheasants Forever, Treaty 8 First Nations, and many others, which I haven't listed here, just to keep this short. Next slide, please. So we have 4 program areas. They are fisheries, land management, wildlife, and communications. In the fisheries program, it's very diverse. Probably the biggest project that we have is the fish stocking. We also do many other things, including fish inventories. We evaluate our fish stocking program. We're always looking for new places to stock, and we have projects happening for species at risk throughout the province. In land management, we purchase and protect land. We provide. We do all kinds of projects to enhance these lands, and we provide access to the public to hunt, fish, berry pick, and just generally recreate on these lands. In the wildlife program, one of our biggest ones that most might be familiar to you is the pheasant release program. And in your area, we release pheasants at the Brooks Aqueduct Marshes. We're already gearing up for pheasant season, even though it's only August, but that's a very popular one, and one that we know draws a lot of people to your county, as well as residents as well. And in our communications program, this includes all kinds of social media where we provide information on our work. One of our big projects within communications is our Discover Guide, which is a publication, a physical publication, which can be acquired from us or at certain sporting goods stores. It's a guide to show people places throughout their whole province, of places to go hunting, fishing, berry picking, etc. We also have an app which you can put on your phone, and you can access our website to find places to go. So it's a very handy communication guide. Next slide, please. So today, I just would like to speak very briefly about the fish stocking. We stock rainbow, brook, brown, and tiger trout throughout the province. We hire contractors to grow fish for us. And here in these photos, you can see various stages of fish development, from egg incubation to full-size fish to actually stocking fish at the lake. Fish are grown to about 20 centimeters in length and about 85 grams in weight. That's approximate. Before they are stocked, we weigh them, measure them, and load them onto tanks for stocking. Stocking events are very, very popular, fun things for everyone who's interested to attend. We often invite schools and municipalities. Anybody who's interested is welcome to watch. It's educational and it's fun. Something of note is that though right now we are just stocking trout species, we are considering expanding that to perhaps catfish in the future, and we have actually stocked a few yellow perch ponds. So what we're doing is just providing more diversity for anglers, and we want to make sure that people have places to go out and enjoy nature and catching a fish and bringing it home. Next slide, please. So we stock Bow City East Pond. We have for many years. It's located south of Brooks, as most of you know. This spring we stocked 2,000 rainbow trout, and from what I've heard, the fishing has been very good. Usually when the weather gets warmer, the fishing slows down a little bit until things cool off, but what I've heard from the spring and early summer is that it was pretty good fishing. The pond historically had a maximum depth of about 10 meters, and it's about 2 hectares in size. So a small pond, which is quite typical of the size that we stock. In recent dry years, the water level here has somewhat gone down, and which is not good. And certainly we've had some people questioning how we can stock still there, but there is sufficient depth and water to sustain fish for a long time. So the way that we stock our stocking program, we call it put and take, which means that we put fish into ponds in the springtime, and we expect them to be harvested mostly by fall or by winter, by the time ice goes onto the pond. Although we do know in some places like Bow City East Pond, where there's good depth, there is overwintering of fish. So We don't intend that, but if it happens, it's a good thing. So in many cases, people send us pictures of their big fish that they've caught that have been in the pond for years. So this is, I think, a gem to Newell County. It's definitely one that we're proud of too. So our goal is to continue stocking it. Every year, our stocking rates do change somewhat depending on the availability of fish and budgets, of course. But generally, it's been right around 2,000 fish every year. Next slide, please. So this is a list of fish stocking partnerships that we have. We rely on various funding sources, and partnerships provide quite a bit of help to us as well to reach our fish stocking goals. As you see, there are numerous municipalities and businesses here that help support our stocking. Many of these stock or help fund ponds in their local area. So it's really great. They're pretty excited about being on board with us. We really celebrate our partners online and in all our social media. And so it's something that we thank partners for every day. So what we're doing here now is we're seeking new partnerships. Next slide, please. So in the grant application, I had provided the costs of fish stocking at Bow City East Pond, and for the cost of 2,000 fish, just the fish alone this year was about just under $7,000, so $6,700. And we provide all the funding for that. We don't have any other partners right now, funding partners, and so we're requesting $2,000 from Newell County. And then just for your information, for next year, if we stock the same amount of fish, which we probably will, we will be paying just a little bit more for the same amount of fish. And if the county is interested, then we'd also be asking for about $2,000 to help us make that possible. Next slide, please. So in the funding application, I had asked for $2,000, and this is optional. It's, you know, if the county or any municipality or company is interested, we welcome any amount of money. But we had asked for $2,000. We are hoping, you know, we know that the cost will increase annually, but not just a very small amount every year. In order to plan more accordingly, we ask partners if they would be interested in committing to a long-term partnership. And in this case, you know, today we're asking for perhaps a grant for 1 year or perhaps a commitment for 3 to 5 years for any amount that Newell County deems appropriate. If you're interested in a long-term agreement, we could discuss the terms, we could discuss the amount, we could discuss the years, and it's something that, you know, if you've got questions about it, I'd be happy to help you out. Yeah, we acknowledge our long-term partners on signs. And every year we put out several newsletters to all ACA partners, and they can see that we're thanking all the partners for their funding. So my quest today is to see if council is interested in being a partner for both cities' pond fish stocking. So I now will put this out for questions if anybody has any questions about what I've talked about.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Diana. Are there questions? Neil, go ahead, please.
I think it's an excellent idea. I think it's a pretty small request, and I'm prepared to make a motion that we give the $2,000 for this year and maybe negotiate a longer term.
Okay, thank you. That's a motion. We have a motion on the floor. Are there other questions? I have some questions too. Go ahead, Holly.
Hi, Diana. You'd said you often get schools involved. Have you had the local school, Alcoma, come to these fish releases at the pond?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it has happened. We stock so many ponds throughout the province. So what we have is we've got a local contact that we notify, And in many cases, the local contact will invite the schools. Sometimes we do, and sometimes the schools approach us. So it varies pond by pond. But in this case, I cannot say whether they've been there.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, go ahead. No, go ahead. For a point of clarification, ACA is also a charitable or not-for-profit organization, a society that issues charitable receipts. Is that correct, Diana?
Yes, we do. Definitely.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kelly.
I have a couple questions, Diana. One came to mind while you were presenting, and that is, how are your ponds located, and how long has this pond been stocked by your organization?
Yeah, so so Alberta Conservation Association has been in existence since 1997, and we took on part of the stocking program in about 1998. So we've been stocking this pond right around, well, over 20 years anyway. And it's one that was already stocked for, I'm not sure the history of it beyond our involvement, but for sure we've been involved for about 20 or so years.
And prior to this, like assuming, or considering the county's contribution prior to this, you just covered the costs of the Bow City Trout Pond from your own resources. Is that right?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Dan, go ahead.
My question was on where your resources come from. Is it just from the just from those donors that you posted, or do you have another source?
Oh, yes, we have another source. So some of our money comes from a levy on hunting and fishing license sales. So we are non-government, but we do have a source of funding from that levy. And so that is part of the funding. And also the majority, well, I can't say exactly the percentage breakdown, but it is that, and it is partnerships. If you check out our website, on the very last page there, the last slide, I've got our website posted there. And if you take a look there, it will give you a lot more information about who we are, what we do, what our funding sources are, who our corporate partners are, for fish stocking, for other programs, for pheasant releases, for all that. So I was just trying to keep it really, really super brief today, just in because I only have a few minutes. And so, that information can be found on our website.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to support 1-year funding for $2,000 to the ACA for the Bow City Trout Pond. Are there any other questions? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? That's carried with some opposition. So we will approve the funding for this year, Diana. I have another question. I don't want to stretch our discussion out too long, but ACA is also involved in conservation easements across the province. Is that correct?
Yes, we can be. Yes, on private land. And so, do you want some more information about that? I can send it to you, or talk about it briefly. Maybe you all are quite aware of.
Yeah, no, I think we're quite aware of that. Actually, the county has had some concerns about setting aside land in perpetuity. I think we're very supportive of conservation efforts, but we are concerned about that as a strategy, and have registered that, and so are the Rural Municipalities Association. So I think it's an issue or a matter that probably needs further discussion, but it doesn't need to be mixed with this one. I just wanted to get that on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And so going forward, who should I contact, or who will contact me?
I think Mr. Todd Green will be our point of contact, and we appreciate the work you do, and certainly recognize in terms of sport fishing and anglers, this provides some opportunity for people to do some things in this area that otherwise wouldn't be available. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate
Bye
your
now.
presentation. Bye now.
Thank you.
Through the Reeve, Todd, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Todd, we've been asked before by this organization, I'm sure. Do you know why we've turned it down in the past?
I don't remember, actually. I think the last time we talked about fish stocking, it was when Lionel was on council, and he was wanting to figure out how to do it for the Kiwanis Club. And I had given him the contact information for ACA to put more fish into the aqueduct, I believe is what they were looking at. But that was a number of years ago. I don't remember a request, but
From ACA?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We partner with them on a lot of great things, and they partner with other organizations in our area as well. You know, specifically the Fish and Game Association on lots of things. They sponsor that. They just recently, I believe ACA gave money for the new boat dock or canoe launch or paddleboard launch, whatever it is, at the Interlake just north of Brooks. You know, they've given a bunch of money for the at the Aqueduct Trout Pond for that big tree planting project. We partner with them on maintenance on most of their properties. We do all the mowing for their parking areas for hunters or recreationists in general, and then we clean up the garbage and things like that. So it's a long-standing partnership that we've had for a lot of years. They're a great organization to work with. We've never worked with Diana before, some of her counterparts, but we're looking forward to this one.
And so the final question is, there is money in the budget for this $2,000 contribution?
Matt, please.
Yeah, the motion's worded approve additional spending of 2,000. So there wasn't, this fish program was not included in the budget. There are surplus funds available to fund it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Let's move to item number 9.3, the Newell Regional Solid Waste Management Authority fee schedule matters. Matt, please.
Yeah, so this has been a subject of discussion, and from time to time we'll get comments from ratepayers who have had an experience at the landfill paying a fee for dumping their trash, and we always appreciate when folks take their trash to the landfill and they don't leave it in our ditches. So I think the interest here in our review of the fees that are currently being charged by the Solid Waste Authority is comparing it back to the agreement which is in place, and we've highlighted a number of areas that we think the fees are offside, and you might be able to make that exchange of waste between the ratepayer and the landfill accepting it a little smoother moving forward. So we've highlighted those there in the attachment. We've discussed this in the past. What we're recommending, and I've already reached out to my counterpart there at the Solid Waste Authority, that why don't we get together, review the current agreement, the fees that are in violation, or the ones that we think are in violation of that agreement, and figure out a path forward. So what we're looking at is a letter signed by the Reeve be sent to the Solid Waste Authority Board requesting the removal of all waste disposal fees from their schedule of fees, which appear to be in violation of the current agreement, and requesting a joint meeting between County of Newell Council and the Solid Waste Authority Board of Directors to discuss the matter.
Okay, thank you. That's the proposal. Do we have someone prepared to make a motion to that effect? Or further discussion? Adina, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. For further discussion, Kelly, go ahead, please.
I wonder if we could just add to that it be in a social situation rather than a council to board situation. Do you know what I'm going with here? I think we want to make this not a confrontational type of conversation, and yet there needs to be structure to it. So I'm just wondering if that was the intent and.
Matt, you've got a comment?
Yeah, I imagine the meeting format would be largely similar to when we get together with Grasslands School Division in the fall. So, you know, yeah, or the EID. So boards meeting together, informal. There would be an agenda, but not, you know, council around the horseshoe and the NRSWMA board on the other side of the table.
I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Neil, please.
Yeah, I did a little bit of work setting this up after our last in-camera session, talking about the dump. And it's time we had this meeting, the 99 agreement. There's some give and take on both sides that, I mean, it's 24 years old now. No agreements don't last that long. So it's a really good idea just to have the come and go the way Kelly just described it, get this meeting done and voice our concerns and get an education on what they actually do out there. They do thousands of receivables every month. Like, it's a big business. So yeah, I totally support this motion.
No question. Okay, ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 9.4, Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities CO2 resolution information. Matt, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so council at last meeting had expressed some interest in maybe getting behind and supporting the advocacy efforts of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities. I think the intent was we'd largely be able to use some of the work that they had completed. I'll be honest, I was disappointed in their resolution and no background information supporting the resolution. Using their resolution as a template isn't going to cut the mustard with the requirements that RMA has in terms of background. So before I went down a rabbit hole doing all kinds of research, because I am not a scientist, I'm an accountant by trade, just looking for clarity and feedback from council on the content of SARM's resolution. I was surprised that they restricted their resolution to photosynthetic CO2. I'm not clear what the definition of photosynthetic CO2 is. If we're going to go down this road, I think there's more effort that needs to be put into it so we have a better resolution than the one authored by SARM. So I had reached out to SARM. I asked them, do you have some background information you can share? And I have yet to receive a response there. So looking for direction.
Okay, thank you. Dan, please, go ahead.
I'm glad you put it that way because I looked at that resolution and thought it was junk myself. There's nothing in there to use. If we're going to be putting a resolution forward to RMA or to Little Bow about concerns, this SARM one is useless to us. So, and like I said, the last one, if we're going to be doing this, we back it up with some scientific research that proves what we're saying. Not, we don't like this, so we're just fighting it. So yeah, there's nothing here to use.
Okay, that's clear. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, I would agree. It was information light, I would put it. But I would like to see this potentially go forward, and I'm interested in being on the committee to gather the information to make a decent recommendation or a decent resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? What was our motion last time? It was to put forward a motion, but it was connected to what Saskatchewan had done?
Yeah, the motion was to bring information back related to SARM's efforts there. So we've provided you with their resolution 5-24A, and that was about all we were able to track down. There are a number of stories coming out of their efforts, in favor, against, critical, in support of their motion, but I think if we're going down that, I'd agree with Councillor Short. We want to do our homework and make sure that it's a supportable resolution that folks can get behind, and more specific on what the resolution is asking for. at the end of the day versus a broad getting us out of all international agreements that reference net zero. I think we want to be targeted with where does RMA go after the resolution passes? Because if it's just a statement that CO2 is not bad, it's good for the greening of the world, well, we can say that with less effort.
Right. Okay. We've got some response options. Holly, were you making a motion, or you were indicating your interest in participating in putting forward a resolution?
Yeah, I'm certainly interested, but I'm just putting forward that until we get more counselors speak up to see where they're at with this.
Where are we at on this? Anyone else have a perspective? Neil, and then Kelly, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's worth spending a whole pile of time on, to tell you the truth.
Okay, thank you. Kelly?
It is a big picture item, and I think we are against the time clock for this year's resolution session. Having said that, Councillor Johnson suggested a committee be formed to have conversation to support staff in the writing of a resolution, and I think that would be worthwhile looking into and bringing back to council to see if we can support that. It is an energetic and a huge conversation to take on, though. That's just where I'm at with.
Okay, thank you. I was sensing, where are you at in terms of staff resources for something like this, Matt? That's a consideration for us, given all of the other things that we have going on. Go ahead.
My recommendation would be, if council wants to support the work, that we look at completing that work over the next number of months and target the spring convention. I'm not optimistic that you're going to have the capacity to get a well-drafted resolution with supportable background research. And I mean, I don't think we want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I do think you want to see some of the scientific evidence coming from some of the contrarians on the CO2 conversation. But you're going to need to look at both sides and understand where your weaknesses are when it comes to being criticized for pushing against the predominant narrative.
Okay, I think that's good advice. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this topic is highly opinion-based versus fact-based. And it's important for us to, as a council, and we need to represent everybody in the county when we do some of these things. When we look into this, we want to make sure that we're fact-based. And that's a huge endeavor, and I think we're kind of out of our wheelhouse here, and that this could be a major task for staff. And is it something we want to pursue, and whether we will be able to look at this through a lens of fact rather than opinion is one of my issues that I'm having in my head.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Or do we have some direction? I certainly take Matt's comments seriously, and I don't think we should try to do something for this fall because of workload considerations. And I think that there's been I think Greg's comments are well formatted. There's definitely people have opinions, but I think absolutely we need to be science-based, and there will be various perspectives with regard to science, as we know. But do we have some direction? We need to either move forward or drop this. Go ahead, Adina.
Well, I wanted to suggest that if we are going to go with creating another committee, that we could maybe draw names, because we've made up several committees in the last little bit, and just spread it around a little more and then have some different opinions on the committee.
Okay, that's good too. Someone have direction? We're either going to move on, or we've had suggestions that we form a committee, and Good with that? Dan?
My direction would be that we drop it. I don't see the sense in spending all that time and effort to say that carbon dioxide is not a problem. I think everybody's well aware that has taken any elementary science classes that the world needs carbon dioxide to survive. If you want to argue about the third decimal point of the percentage of how much is good or bad for our environment, it's a fool's errand, and it's a waste of our time, and you're not going to accomplish anything with it anyway. So I think we just drop it is the sensible thing to do.
Okay. Lynette, I've got further hands. Go ahead.
I feel like our federal government is doing the 3 decimal place kind of deal, and if us as municipal governments don't voice some opposition to some of the opinions that have been out there, we're just rolling over and letting them do the things to us, right? And mandating changes to our legislation. So I would rather not drop it, but I would like it done properly. So I'm not sure how much time we do want to put towards this, but I think it's something important.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion yet? Were you making a motion, Dan, or was it? I haven't.
If you want to make a motion that we just accept that as information and move on, I guess.
Well, if you make that motion, I'll accept it.
Yeah.
But, okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor that we just accept this as information and drop the issue, basically. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's defeated. Do we have another motion? Go ahead, Holly.
I make a motion that we form a committee and look at taking this resolution forward based on the information. Based on the results of our exploration committee work.
Okay, all in favor of that, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's carried. Okay, now we need volunteers for the committee, or we want to, how do we want to appoint the committee? Volunteers? Holly?
I suggest those who are interested put their hands up, and if there's too many, then we'll draw names.
Okay, who's interested in being part of this? Okay, that can be our committee, but Dan, you had your hand up. I didn't.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we could set some guidelines and parameters for this committee. Or do we just say, here's a committee, go do something about CO2 resolution? That seemed way too vague. So do we need to set parameters for our committee and goals, something for them to follow?
We can do that. Do you have some suggestions? Because I think we have some background with regard to some considerations, but what else would you like to add to?
Well, I'd just like to hear it stated what this committee their goals are. Because the original motion was to bring in the SARM resolution. And we've seen that and we've talked about it. We don't really enjoy that resolution. Now we've got a committee to form a resolution about what?
Okay, good question. Holly, you've got a comment?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Matt could give us some guidance on what we would maybe structure that, given that Matt has put together resolutions in the past for us.
Go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was being critical of SARM's resolution in the context of evaluating it against RMA's rubric, you need an updated title. You know, their title is CO2. Yeah. All right, well, the title of your resolution should make it clear what the resolution's about, right? And if I'm reading the tea leaves right, I think the base of the resolution is we got to quit hyperventilating about the CO2 conversation, and all the policy and legislation that is surrounding that conversation needs to just simmer. I think, I say all the legislation around that, we need to be specific about what legislation we're opposed to that's addressing that predominant CO2 narrative. RMA already has resolutions on the carbon tax, so that one's in motion. Is it, the gag order legislation that's come out, the Bill C-59? Those are the things that I think committee can spend some time on. Anecdotally, I think the sense is the conversation or the pendulum on the CO2 conversation has swung too far one way. We need to come back to a sensible center if that exists. So specifics about legislation, and then specifics about the current CO2 conversation that committee and council feels is problematic or not reflecting both sides of the conversation as a starting point. But I think you're going to see there's a rabbit hole to go down. And I think, maybe allocating a certain amount of time for the task, because people spend their life studying this stuff, right? So I think you want to get a half dozen good preamble sentences that address the issue. Your operative clause, what you want RMA to focus their advocacy efforts on, not just, the blanket from SARM. Get out of every international agreement that references net zero. Well, no, let's be targeted with where you want RMA to go with the efforts, so you're actually likely to achieve something at the end. Advocacy should be towards some specific end, and I think that would be the task for committee to tease out.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. I think the committee can come back to us with perspective where there may be a reasonable endpoint on this. So we have 3 people who have volunteered to be on the committee: Lynette, Adina, and Holly. And I think that they can tease out the right perspective on this, but we need a motion to appoint those 3 as our committee, I believe. Someone prepared to make a motion to that effect? Kelly?
If we want to go down there, and I appreciate the conversation and the parameters, sometimes we put the motions ahead of the conversations, and I'm not sure right or wrong, but I will make that motion to appoint those 3 people to flush out as Matt described, and see what you come up with. I appreciate the energy put forward.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion, and I think we all have opportunity to have input to the 3 of you with regard to where this goes. So all in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 9.5, organizational meetings set date. Ariana, you're suggesting October the 25th, I believe, right? Sorry, I got the wrong date. What was the date?
October 24th.
24th. Thursday, October 24th. Any conversation around that? Someone prepared to make a motion that October 24th be our organizational meeting date? Lynette, please.
I'll make the motion to set our organizational meeting for October 24th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Greg, please.
Yeah, Arno, I see that that there is an event at that time, October 24th. It's a developers conference that we were planning on going to. I'm just wondering if that's the right day to have that meeting.
I believe that is a dinner that was happening later in the day, correct?
I'm not sure the particulars around that meeting, if it's during the day or when it is.
I think it's an evening event.
Okay.
It's not, I don't think it'll conflict with
council.
it may shorten the day a little bit, but not the start of the day.
Okay.
All in favor of any other considerations? All in favor of October the 24th at 9 a.m. being our organizational meeting? That's carried. Thank you. Requests for function of council. Any requests for functions of council? Seeing none. Oh, Holly, go ahead.
I guess when we request, we follow up from the Halo event, which was a function of council. It was a well-run and well-attended event. I think everyone who was there enjoyed it. We had 2 representatives come from Tabor who thanked me for the invitation, and they liked the event as well. So just kudos to the organizers, and we did a great job cooking.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good. It being 2 minutes to 12, 1 minute to 12, do we want to break for lunch? Is lunch here, or do we?
Yeah. Okay.
No? Let's, Mr. Mark Harbink, are you prepared to take us through the Director of Municipal Services report?
Good morning. It's still morning. This month, what can I highlight? Municipal enforcement doing what they always do. Fleet services, you can see we've received a number of our capital replacements and whatnot. We still have a grader to arrive in August, a plow truck that remains scheduled for delivery late September, and we have a dually tandem axle flatbed trailer that was awarded to T-Down Trailers, so whenever that arrives as well. Everyone knows we've been through some extensively hot, dry period here that has had terrible effect for dust, washboard, all those sorts of things. Of course, we get some concerns submitted from our residents. Not too many though, so if you're hearing things, we're already aware it's dry, it's washboarded. We're doing our best with what we have. Some staff are trying to take their vacation periods over summer as well and enjoy some of the weather. So we're getting around, getting things done. Silage operations have obviously kicked off, so that's contributing to dust and washboard and heavier traffic out there. And harvest will be upon most of you here very soon if you haven't started some of your products already. Truck drivers, as of August 6th, we're now up to 48% complete the gravel program, so a little over a month's time and just about 50% complete. So should be on track for that for mid-September to be done and have some time to get ready for winter operations and do anything extra that we've identified. Maintenance operators have been kept busy with a number of things. We've had guardrail repairs being some of those where we've noticed some sags in the guardrail and or some other deficiencies, so taking on some of that work. Gem pit or the ballast pit, depending how you know it, we have an access road review over there for feasibility of getting aggregates out of there in a more cost-effective manner. So we'll see where that assessment comes out with the award going to McElhaney Engineering. Drainage improvements on Township Road 19-2 from Highway 36 to Range Road 15-5. Those have been complete. They've since moved on to Range Road 15-5 now, so making some progress there. You've got updates on rural water. We somewhat talked about things already. I'll remind council that the contractor is the prime contractor. They are responsible for safety of all their construction sites. If there are issues, they should be getting phoned into the county, and we can follow that up with weekly meetings, or if it's of urgent need, immediately with the contractor and engineer to get those resolved. So keep that in mind. Crack sealing was complete. Line painting, we're waiting for the contractor to commence here. Block 1 and 4, Lake Newell Resort, the original condominium associations. Those roads, water, and wastewater infrastructures originally sat with the condominium associations. 2011, County of Newell was approached by the condominium associations about taking over the roads, the water, and wastewater. That was accepted by County of Newell Council of the day. So being that they're 20, 30 years along the road here, they were narrower roads than what we would generally do because they were part of the condominium's responsibility, and what they did within was bound by their boards. We are looking at getting the engineering done and coming forward with strategies for council and new budgets to identify the timing and things that happen in those blocks. Range Road 150 paving priority as well. Highway 1 down to Highway 542 or Castles Road. Engineering reviews taking place and coming up with what we do with that. Also considering that it's identified as the future truck route, what we do with it and what kind of budget may need to come along with that. And if we stage it or we try to get everything set for the final goal of it to be a truck route, will be what gets proposed to council in the end. Kinbrook Connection Pathway Partnership had a meeting earlier this week about that. They need to get some fencing done before they kick off construction. So I think last meeting I reported that it was looking good, that they were going to be a couple weeks early getting started. And we didn't do that. We didn't get started at the end. And here we are into August. So guaranteed work is going to recommence in 2024. I'm hopeful that it's going to be finished in 2024, but I do not have a guarantee. So council's budget item of putting money forward for a grand opening, I'm kind of sitting on my hands with that to see whether we're going to be there or not, because I would like to have a finished product before we actually have a grand opening. I'd most definitely want the trailhead to be finished and everything of the sorts, and I do not have a schedule on that side of the construction yet. So keep council apprised of that, and we'll look at grand opening when I get a better sense. Lake Newell Resort pathway remains with land ownership and acquisition stage of things. We're close, just not finished with that, and working through EID partnership. 2025 interim budget preparations taking place. I want to take the time to remind you, if you weren't thorough on reading my report, but your field day is planned for September 12th. You'll have a council meeting the following Thursday, you'll have the field day, and then you'll be back in council meeting. So three Thursdays of September, you will be busy with this. We had another meeting on that after getting some other things written down before. So we're getting things planned, we're getting things booked. We'll see what we can come up with for tours. You will be in the southeast sector, so the carrot production, potatoes, there's lots of great things. Trailer manufacturing, we've tossed around a lot of ideas, and we'll see where we can settle ourselves on a tour route and who is capable of affording us some tours. And then keeping in mind your feedback from last year of more little stops along the way to get out and stretch the legs, maybe giving you some insight into the various types of bridge files that we have out there, what their original cost was, what their future cost to replace, and or if we recently replaced what it was, so you get an idea of what those asset replacement costs are looking like. So we're kind of excited about that and getting that kicked off again. And yeah, that's my report. If there's any questions of council, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Mark. Are there questions? Greg, please, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for the report. I'm just wondering, just a general question about dust abatement. I think it's important, and maybe this would be a committee of the whole type of conversation moving forward, but the number of years ago, the council at the time reduce the dust abatement application to roads, and now we're especially to hot spots and high traffic areas, and I'm just wondering if there's a conversation that should be had of the cost effectiveness of dust abatement versus not having it versus pavement. And I'm just wondering if it's worthwhile to move back to more dust abatement that's applied by the county. So just I think a conversation needs to be open. Is that something that we would put in a cow meeting, Matt, or what kind of direction should we be making there?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it's committee of the whole, budget planning, right? So if we're thinking that there's additional subdivisions, roads leading into Hamlet, what have you, that we'd like Mark and his crew to tend to as part of their annual dust abatement plan, we can have that conversation at budget planning or separate at committee of the whole. We do have on our list of council priorities to look at a dust abatement hotspot policy. Is that something where you want to tell silage haulers to, instead of the current practice where Terry encourages folks, if he gets a complaint, he'll forward that along and encourage folks to be a good neighbor, maybe knock it down with some water. But we currently don't have a policy where we force you to do that. So do we want to go down that road where we address both the industry driven as well as, maybe there's some spots where operationally it makes more sense. We put dust abatement in Westland Acres because it makes sense to not be in there with the grader half dozen times a year. Maybe there's other subdivisions that should be on there.
Yeah, and the conversations I've been having with ratepayers has been more towards the entrances and exits into subdivisions. So it might be something that, and we can talk about all those things. A dust abatement day.
Yeah. Dan, please go ahead.
Pivots over spring roads. Can you walk me through that one? I know we see it, take a picture, put it on the Newell Connect app. What's the procedure after that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the officer needs to come out, investigate, and physically see it on the road, and issue the ticket if warranted. It seems that ag has a reason every time it's found. Sometimes it's repeatable in the exact same spot and it doesn't get resolved and there's a different reason. I'm not an irrigator. I don't understand end guns. I know you can either put a pin in it or you can shut it off or whatever, but we have to have substantive evidence because they do have the right to come in and contest those things, and if it goes to court, test our bylaw and see whether it upholds itself or not, and it's a matter of how far down the road does council want to go. We've been in an education state. Is there a change of direction from the 10 of you that we start writing tickets?
Okay, thank you. Adina, please.
Well, I just feel like it's chronic in my division, and I don't know if it's just in the Tilly area, but there's not a lot of dust because there is a lot of watering the road. So I haven't taken any pictures, and I encourage other people to do so, but if nothing's going to happen, like you say, there's a different reason every time. Well, you know what? You can tell by the road that it's always being watered in the same spot. So do something about it or forget about it. I'm just really torn by it because it is chronic in my area.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Well, I think if education's, you can educate as much as you want, but if it comes down to the point where education isn't working anymore, then I think that that it's important that it's enforced. That's my opinion. Maybe the agricultural community has some insight on that as far as why wouldn't we enforce it? Is the education doing its job? It doesn't sound like it is. But if the education isn't working, then our next step is enforcement and tickets.
I guess my question, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and I want to say council is not limited administration or our officers to only doing education. I want to make that clear. It's officer discretion, but we have been strongly encouraged that it's education before enforcement. And what is the worst case scenario? Well, when we start to see that gravel has been moved completely off the road, that's pretty significant because the volume of water hitting it is doing damage to roads.
Certainly, I would encourage education over enforcement wherever we can do that effectively. The question I have, do we have significant areas or kilometers of roads that are damaged from irrigation overreach? I can't, these pivots go in circles, so there aren't that many, typically they would only access one or two roads in the midsection of their circumference. But do we have significant road damage as a result of pivot overreach?
I don't believe it's significant road damage. I know the last time I was coming back home from Saskatchewan, we had pivots shooting right over the highway on Highway 544.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a little more concerning than a gravel road, but by no means do I want to be driving down the road and all of a sudden have a pivot spray through my window because I got my windows down. Are the concerns that we always talk about internally is that who's at fault, and it's the irrigator that isn't controlling their infrastructure, and we often think about a younger motorist driving down a gravel road at night perhaps where it's changed from when they left home and have come home and there's a motor vehicle accident and where it's actually going to fall out at, and we believe that that's when lessons will be learned, but are they also soon forgotten and things go back to the way that they were? Yeah. That's where our discussion around administration often comes, and our two officers are out there. They're busy documenting, writing those warnings and stuff like that. Just I've had those personal conversations with repeat offenders that I don't want to have this call come back again because we're going to deal with it, and I don't know. It almost seems like they aren't interested in helping the situation.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Adina, please.
Well, I was going to say, so I have an area in my area that when they water the road, it's not so bad, but then when it rains, that part of the road becomes super greasy because it's already got water in it. And so when he's watering, it doesn't look so bad, but then the rain comes and then you have to hang on to try and keep your car on the road.
Okay, thanks. Dan, please.
So 1 mile stretch of road, one farmer turned his pivot on in the spring, it oversprayed. The next time the pivot came around, he had it fixed. Just a half mile up the road, there's 4 spots. He's got pivots on either side, and the swing arm, the pivot arm, it hits 2 places on each side. So then now there's 4 spots on that half mile stretch. And incidentally, there was 4 soft spots this spring that lined up exactly where his overspray is. He didn't fix it. He doesn't care. Why would he? He knows the difference. There's no reason to go fix it. Why take time out to go? There's no consequences. And if that keeps up, how much longer before those little soft spots are big soft spots? That's just one mile of road.
Okay, thanks. Dan, Holly?
There's just nothing like paying money to make you change your behavior. That's the bottom line. If it's just a repeat warning, it doesn't mean anything. If you pay money, people care more. So if we feel there's no good reason, anybody can set their pivots. They're very computerized. It's not difficult. So I would be in favor of enforcement monetarily.
Just so that we understand where we're at, you have those capabilities. I mean, we have that capability now. This isn't new. This isn't. I don't think there's any action for us to take. I think that, where there's hot spots and problems, you can deal with them, can't you?
Yeah, it's again though we don't get a whole lot of pivot spraying on the roads concerns. It's mostly our operators calling it in to our CPOs. It's not the general public calling it in, but I know what Councillor Short's talking about. We can identify those same areas too. That in the spring that's problematic. It's got more moisture in the road than the rest. Give it some time, dry it out. Few people complain about those things too. So it's what is the norm, what's acceptable, and how much of it Do you want administration actually starting to hammer home with landowners is the difficult balance of things. So customer service request driven or complaint driven, that's where we've been with most everything, whether it's unsightly properties, pivot spraying roads, anything like that, and that's what they go out and investigate, and they use their officer discretion.
Okay. Do we need to take any other action? I think that we've raised it, or that the concern has come to the table, and you've got the tools you need to deal with it where you need to, right? Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for that report, Mark, and a good conversation around various issues. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
We
Just
have
a motion to approve.
Mark's report. Dan, please, makes that motion. One more question, Holly?
Sorry, just real quick. Do we have a deadline on that gravel study yet?
We'll be bringing that one forward to you here in probably September.
Okay. All in favor of approving Mark's report? That's carried. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to suggest we break for lunch till probably 1 o'clock. Okay.
had it circled in my day timer, but didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah. Okay, let's resume this meeting. We're ready to go. I'll call the meeting back to order a little bit later than intended. And we have, let's go back to functions of council. Kelly, you had a suggestion there. Please.
Yes, I would like to suggest to council that we consider the RMA Town Hall meeting. We've received an invitation. 1:30 to 3:30 is what I wrote down, and it's a Zoom meeting. If I could start the conversation by making a motion to make it a function of any councillor that would like to attend. And that's next Tuesday, August 13th. And your official information came from RMA.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any further comments or ready for the question? Call for the question. All in favor of making the RMA Town Hall a function of council for whoever can attend, that's carried. Thank you. Post agenda items, I think we only have one, and that was letter to K Division. I've talked to a couple of people about this, but I'm thinking that we should maybe just send a letter to K Division with regard to, I don't know if any of you heard that there was an emergency order called shelter in place on Tuesday, I believe it was, for the county of Wheatland, that was ordered or issued early afternoon, and very little information after that, and it was pretty direct, and I think that there should be more information that comes out with those, because that wasn't in our county, but where I live, we're right next to the county of Wheatland, so then you look at what's the situation, and either there should have been further clarifications at some point afterwards. I think we should just raise it as a concern. I wouldn't want to see that happening in our county. It alarms too many people without there's no end point to it really, other than the way that one carried out. So I'm going to suggest that we send them a letter asking for clarification. Either there should have, if there was a breach of protocol, that needs to be expressed. If there was a reason why more information couldn't be shared, it's important that be shared so people understand why they were left in kind of an emergency situation for an extended period of time. And I think we should ask for, we could have a meeting with them when we go to RMA in the fall too, but in the interim, I think we should ask for some clarification on this. Is that reasonable, Matt? You and I have talked a little bit about it. I just think that it's a matter of, at a high level, we just say we're concerned that I think that there's a better job that needs to be done with communication. And we know in this case there's people still that aren't apprehended, but there's no indication of who or any information connected to it. And if there isn't information, then public just needs to hear that. But if it's a breach of protocol, they need to hear that too. So, what's your feeling, Neil?
I don't mind doing it just to get the information. I wouldn't want to second guess the police. They probably know what they're doing. But it is kind of scary knowing that there's two guys running around within 50 miles of here that are up for murder. Like, just for information gathering in case it ever happened here again, it's probably a good idea.
There needs to be more follow-up information.
Well, maybe let's get the information and see why there wasn't. I mean, there could be a good reason why not. I don't know.
No, that's right. That's what we're saying. Holly?
Yeah, I would support that letter. It's kind of a communication issue, I would say, whether they need to update their protocols or what it is. So I'd like to make the motion that we write a letter.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I mean, I think we can acknowledge, Dan?
Could it be solved quickly with a phone call? Just ask him for information? Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't think so. I think there's a bigger issue than that, because it's not anybody's curiosity around this table. It's the whole communities that have been issued a warning, but no follow-up. I think it'd be better to send a letter. And I think we can acknowledge in the letter that by the time they get the letter, they may have already addressed this issue. But I think it's also one that we can follow up with then if we have a visit with them in fall at RMA. Kelly?
And I was going to suggest having it on record, and also indicating in the letter that we will follow up by a visit with you at RMA, so an ongoing conversation is being requested, and I think that's very important.
Okay, any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's carried. Any questions with regard to information items? Holly and then Matt, please, sorry.
Just on the payment register, we had Fire Hall WAP WAPS. It was 400. What is X10 Technologies? I don't know what that was.
WAPs are wireless access points. You'll see these little white boxes throughout, and it helps you connect. Yeah. Acronym.
Okay. Good answer. Thank you. Matt, you had a comment?
I did just want to point out, if you're looking at the Q2 financial information package, we had received a request for information to be broken down by location. So for instance, if you look at the fire reporting, the very first fire summary will be the total of all departments rolled up. And then if you're interested to see where you're at for the individual fire department budget to actual, you get that detail. You also get that for the water, wastewater, and recreation areas now. So we're going to shift to this format moving forward so you can see the detail.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments with regard to information items? Oh, Holly, go ahead.
The Canada Community Building Fund, do we use that for a specific project, or is that general?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, typically it goes towards the road construction budget line. So we typically budget 1.8 towards that, and whatever we can use from the gas, it was previously the gas tax fund, we would put it towards shoulder poles. Consistent program, easy to use those dollars year over year.
Okay. I think we are now, our agenda is complete other than in camera. I would accept a motion that we move in camera. Elinette, all in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. With that, we'll